I'm a few days late on this one, but that might actually work out to my advantage here because we've had some extra info that's come out over the last few days. So for example, did you guys see this? So apparently Alex is going to be playable. There's going to be like an Alex test build at the Street Fighter League JP finals. This is the best possible outcome for me. It's my favorite time of the year because you know what location tests means? Can you smell something? Smells like gas leaks to me. I'm looking forward to some gas leaks. I'm looking forward to people imagining things that aren't really there. Yeah, this is very soon. This is like a week from now, which is interesting because Alex doesn't release until after Capcom Cup. So that makes it even more likely that people are going to start looking for changes to the system mechanics to see if there's anything coming after Capcom Cup. So I'm looking forward to the gas leaks on this one. But anyway, let's stick to the trailer for now. So Alex seems to be a completely different beast in this game, and there is quite a lot to unpack here. So it's actually kind of funny because Alex's World Tour trailer showed like all of his traditional moves. So I expected him to be quite similar to Street Fighter V Alex, but what they gave us here was something entirely different. And also Jam Project. This is cheating. You can't put Jam Project in the trailer because that just makes everything more hype. Anyway, so we're going to break this down piece by piece. So it's going to be lots of pausing and unpausing. If you want to just watch the trailer, then I advise you to watch it first and then come back because we're going to be doing kind of a deep dive here. The very first thing we see, before any normals, before any specials, Alex goes into a brand new stance, and this is called Prowler Stance. So Alex is officially a stance character now. And this stance, apparently, according to Capcom, this has 11 different follow-ups, which is way more than even Chun-Li has in stance. Unlike Chun-Li, Alex cannot block once he's in stance. While I'm talking about changes to Alex's moveset, Alex is no longer a charge hybrid character. He is 100% motions now, which I think is a little bit disappointing. To be honest, you could probably make a whole separate video about charge moves being eradicated. I'll save that discussion for another day. So he's no longer a charge character. So the very first thing we see out of Prowler Stance is this. He runs forward and then jumps. You get this jump if you press light kick out of stance, and it makes Alex do a forward jump, but with a very shallow angle. So he does move forward a little bit and then comes down with a falling normal. I like how the very first thing they show is Luke trying to intercept this and then getting bodied for it. I feel like this trailer was made just to upset Street Fighter 6 players because there's a lot of instances throughout of people trying to intercept Alex's approach and dying for it, but we'll get there. And then we get showcase of a few normals here. We get the boot. This is the big boot, Alex's iconic stand heavy kick, and it crumples on punish counter, so very similar to Street Fighter V. Couple of target combos on display here as well. I think this is medium punch, heavy punch, followed by overhead. And you guys know what that means, folks. That means Alex is a drive rush overhead have-an-ass character. So as well as the command grab, you also need to look out for the high-low. And then we see the first of several forward throws. So similar to Zangief, similar to Dalsim, he is one of those characters who seems to have lots of different versions of his normal throws. Okay, so this is where the pace picks up. So we see Alex go into stance, and that stance, it would appear, goes under projectiles. It goes under the fireball, but it's also worth mentioning that Luke's Sandblast is not the best example to go by, but it does seem to go under projectiles. So he runs in with the stance and then does this move, which I believe this is stance jab, and that keeps him in stance. He does a second one, and then he cancels that into the alternate version of Flash Chop, Flash Axe. Forward throw number 2. I assume this is like a forward throw that comes out if you're in Prowler stance. We get stand light kick into axe, followed by crouch light kick, heavy kick. Now this is a target combo. This target combo is kind of interesting. We'll cover it a bit more later, but this low target combo has some interesting properties, which they show in more detail later on. So we'll get to that in a second. Checks the low, and then we have the devious mix here. So this is stance into the command jump again. This angle is evil. It's like, it looks like a neutral jump. You see this and you think it's a neutral jump, but the stance jump just slightly drifts him forward, which gets behind for a cross up, and then you get the hyper bomb. Hope it's a force knockdown. We get the crouch heavy punch, which, now again, this is a kind of a question mark for me, because this crouch heavy punch is odd. Yeah, it looks to me, at the start of the clip, it looks like he's going into Prowler stance. So I don't actually think this is his, like, traditional crouch heavy punch. This seems to be locked behind stance. Although this is a potentially good anti-air, it could be difficult to react fast enough. But anyway, so we get the crouch heavy punch into the axe. Then we get the dive punch. This was a very funny normal. This thing has been in both Third Strike and Street Fighter V. And in both games, it's kind of funny because it can kind of make anti-airs whiff like this. But also in Street Fighter V, this thing was like minus 30 on block. It could have gimmicky potential, but this thing was really high risk in previous games. We get yet another forward throw. Jump medium punch, which juggles, and then we get the DP. So they mention in the blog post how his DP works in this game. The light and medium versions of his DP are like dedicated anti-airs. They look pretty fast. And apparently the heavy version can hit grounded. So I think the heavy version is mostly combo filler, but we'll see the heavy version later on. So we get the heavy punch into the heavy flash chop, which turns around into the backdrop follow-up. So a couple of things to mention here. You may have noticed, it seems like this is the charged version of Stan Heavy Punch. So it seems like he has the Marissa thing of having chargeable heavies. Because it seems like he charges the Heavy Punch. Then he goes into the heavy version of Flash Chop, which the dev blog mentions this thing is also plus on block. So I assume the downside is probably that this thing loses to DI, if I had to guess, but I'm not sure. Yeah, this does the back turn, and then you get the backdrop. Now, in Street Fighter V, one of Alex's weaknesses in that game was that this combo ender did good damage, but you always lost the corner when you did it. It was a side switch on hit, and it's still a side switch on hit in this game, but Capcom have added a second follow-up to his back turn stuff that keeps the corner. So I'll show that in a minute when we get there, but the nice thing about Street Fighter 6 Alex is that you're not constantly forfeiting the corner in order to get his like good combo game going. We get Stan Heavy Kick again. That looks to me like it was charged. And then he goes into stance. So my guess here is that Alex's stance probably functions the same way Chun's does. Which is that if you guys don't know, Chun-Li can cancel into her stance even from normals that aren't special cancelable. So I've seen a few people speculate that Stan Heavy Kick is special cancelable. If I had to guess, it's a special exception only for stance. Because that's how it works for Chun-Li. But anyway, goes into the stance, hits the low, and this is where the mind games begin. So Alex has a low out of stance there, which gets the knockdown. And so you're thinking, all right, I don't want to get hit by this low, so what I'll do is I'll parry to protect myself against the high low, and then this happens. Get DDT'd, idiot. It looks like he has some nasty mix-ups out of stance. From what I understand from the blog post, the DDT here only comes out on punish counter, and this is where I need to introduce another mechanic of Alex in this game. Alex has a bunch of moves that get replaced with like an upgraded version if they punish counter. So because this DDT connected on a parry attempt, you can see at the last second here, just for a split second, Luke turns blue. So that means this grab was a punish counter, and that's why you get the DDT. So this is actually the upgraded version of this grab. If you watch this trailer and you were thinking like, why does it seem like Alex has 1,000 moves? It's because a lot of his moves have like special extended animations, but only if they connect as a punish counter. Anyway, so we've got more stance stuff. We get the jump. Actually, this isn't the jump. It looks like the jump. This is the stomp. This was one of his charge moves previously. This was down up kick. It's now performed by pressing medium kick out of stance, I believe. He does the stomp, and it looks like if this punish counters, you also get a ground bounce because he follows it up with a full juggle. Which looks pretty cool. And finishes up with a level 1. The level 1 looks kind of lame. It's just a big dumb tackle. Not sure how I feel about the level 1, but a couple of things to break down here as well. So on the juggle, we get Drive Rush Heavy Punch into Medium Axe. And Medium Axe has a unique property, which it's the only version which transitions into Prowler stance. So he then cancels out of the Medium Axe into stance. And then from there, we get Elbow, which, again, this was previously a charge move. It seems like Elbow is now locked behind stance. All right, we switch to classic nostalgia Alex. We get... Remember I said earlier how, like, I feel like this trailer was made to upset Street Fighter 6 players? Starts the clip with Drive Rush, and then Ryu tries to check the Drive Rush with Crouch Medium Kick, and Alex just reels his hurtbox back with Stand Heavy Kick and just boots him in the face. Stand Heavy Kick apparently has like a big low crush effect. It looks like there's different effects here, because this thing punish countered earlier in the trailer and it did a crumple, but this time it's punish countering and it's doing like a spin launch. So I assume that's an effect that's exclusive to the charged version. But anyway, so he goes into stance, he runs underneath, and then auto-corrects into the stance Crouch Heavy Punch. Some characters do have stances that auto-correct. So like, for example, if Blanka goes into Coward Crouch, his follow-ups will also auto-correct. So this is not completely unheard of. But we get Crouch Heavy Punch into EXDP, which has a very cool animation. And also, we're going to have a weeb session real quick. Yeah. About 2 years ago, I finally got around to reading Kinnikuman. And one of the things that you experience if you've ever read Kinnikuman is that you realize that like 99% of all anime and manga ever is constantly referencing Kinnikuman. You start seeing the references everywhere. It's crazy. So this is Napalm Stretch. Anyway, so we got Heavy Flash Chop, which cuts straight through Ryu's Fireball. And then something kind of interesting happens. So I mentioned earlier that Alex has a bunch of special effects that only trigger on punish counter, and this is one of them. So he gets the punish counter Heavy Flash Chop, and he goes into the other follow-up. So rather than side switching with the backdrop, this is the second possible follow-up, where he kicks you in the legs and then keeps the same side. And there is also this gigantic red spark effect. Anytime you see this gigantic red flash on any of Alex's moves, that's this game's way of telling you that this is a special effect that only happens on punish counter. So there's a few of these in the clip. We start off with this one. Goes into stance. Stance jab. Stance. Okay, so this is the biggest mystery in the whole clip for me. I have to talk about this one. This whole sequence is insane. What happens here is Ryu wakes up with a DI. It absorbs one hit with the stance jab, and then 2 more hits with the stance Crouch Fierce, which seems to break the DI and trigger a special follow-up on the Crouch Heavy Punch, right? But everyone seems to have missed one key detail about this clip from what I can tell. Everyone is saying this is happening because the Crouch Heavy Punch is punish countering after the DI. That is not how punish counter works in this game. If you break a DI with 3 hits, right now, this is a counter hit. So I've seen a lot of people say the reason this happened is because it was a punish counter, but actually this is a counter hit. The only real possibilities here are either Alex's follow-ups also trigger on counter hit as well as punish counter, or something changed about DI in this version of the game. But it's very weird, this one. And they don't really mention anything about this in the blog post. Very cool animation. I like the way a lot of his like cinematic grabs look in this game. So we see the same low. I mentioned the stance low in the beginning of the trailer, but this time it would appear that it punish counters, and when it punish counters, once again you get the gigantic red spark effect, and then it goes into this like special follow-up animation. Fellas, we've all been there, right? We've all been in this situation before. I didn't notice this the first time I watched it. I had to realize what this was afterwards. This is the part where I got scared, because this is Alex's crouch medium punch, which was probably his single best normal. I guess maybe second best normal behind Lariat in Street Fighter V. The one downside this button had in Street Fighter V was that it was not special cancelable. It was an amazing poke, but it wasn't special cancelable. And then they do crouch medium punch DRC. So this character might be a crouch medium punch DRC dispenser, it looks like. So we get the combo into heavy chop once again. Gets the back turn, and then we get the EX follow-up. And according to the blog post, you can actually choose which side you end up on this move. So Alex keeps the corner in this example, but apparently you can choose with different inputs. We get the EX version of Power Bomb. Jump on this fool. Then we get Alex's level 2, which goes through fireballs. They mentioned this is a pretty good fireball punish. This might be my favorite animation that he has. I really like his level 2. Or I really like his first level 2. I like that animation a lot. You get a DI counter. Down medium punch, DRC, crouch heavy punch, into stance, into jab, into lariat, into stand light kick, into EX chop, into level 3. We'll cut to the level 3 in a second. There's a few things to talk about here. So I mentioned earlier how probably the biggest question mark I have about this character is how his stance moves flow together. And this clip is a good example of like what I mean by that. So we have stance jab, which seems to cancel into lariat. But lariat is not a target combo, so he cancels from a stance move into another stance move, and this one exits the stance. So he's no longer in stance here. So this is what I mean about how it doesn't really resemble Chun's stance that much, because Chun's does not work like this. So yeah, there's some system for chaining the stance moves together, and some moves maintain the stance, and some moves instantly exit the stance, it seems. Now, apparently, according to Capcom, Alex actually has 4 different versions of his level 3. So he's got his level 3 if it kills, level 3 if it doesn't kill, critical art if it kills, and critical art if it doesn't kill. My best guess is that in Granblue Fantasy Versus, Ladiva has a very similar mechanic on her super, and it has different outcomes depending on whether or not it KOs or not. We get one more little flash. We get a post-trailer tease. It appears there's one wing sprouting out of Alex during his second level 2. Like some kind of one-winged angel, perhaps. Yeah, so if you guys don't know, Kenny Omega is a massive Street Fighter fan. I mean, he did the reveal trailer for the DLC characters this season where he was dressed up as all 4 of them. And I guess to celebrate Kenny's love of Street Fighter, what Capcom did is they actually did a ton of mocap for Alex, was recorded by Kenny Omega, and they even gave him a second level 2, which for legal reasons is not called the One-Winged Angel, but is literally just the One-Winged Angel, which is Kenny Omega's like special finisher. Apparently, this super can only be triggered from this specific follow-up. It's a weird looking cancel. The first time I saw this, I thought these were separate clips. But yeah, apparently you can only situationally cancel into this special level 2 from certain moves. So that's Alex. Just to summarize, kind of my impression is I like the way he looks, I like the way he moves. I'm a little bit concerned that he might be a bit gimmicky. You could argue that being gimmicky is maybe his archetype. But anyway, I think he's going to be a lot of fun to play. I'll definitely be trying him out when he comes out. Let me know what you guys think about the Alex trailer, and I will see you guys all in the next video.